Our next guest pulled at heartstrings through beautiful lines of poetry that symbolized the delicate and fragile nature of a budding relationship in the award-winning Moh Moh Ke Dhaage. We at the Bangalore Film Poetry Festival are ecstatic that these strings, Ye Dhaage, have finally brought the man Varun Grover himself here to grace the occasion. We welcome you, sir. Thank you so much. Lyricist and comedian, Varun Grover's insightful commentary and observations on life, society and politics makes him an important voice in our country's landscape. We're honored to have him at the festival. He was supposed to be in conversation with Ms. Ira Sisodia, who unfortunately was unable to make it here due to personal reasons. He will now be talking with Subodh Sankar.
Thank you all, and thank you, Varun. So as part of the team that organizes this festival, Varun and I were just joking. From the year 2016, when this festival was in its first year, we've written, called, and spoken to Varun, inviting him to the festival, and he's never been in the country.
Yeah, I think we started talking around 2019 or 18. 16? No, I don't think so. Anyway, but yeah, no. Either not in country or touring with my show or shooting a film or down with COVID, whatever. Yeah, many things that happened in the last 10 years.
So for us, it's personally a great joy that this year our calendar and Varun was in town, and it is an honor to have you here in
Thank you.
the Bangalore.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
So this session, like Sharanya said, Ira was supposed to be in conversation with you, and my Hindi is rather, I would not expose this on stage. So
And same for my English, but we'll try.
So we all know Varun as many different things, right? But I think most engineers in Bangalore wanted to do what you do, which is from being an engineer, move to Bombay to be a writer.
I hope that is true, because this country needs more writers, less engineers.
I need time.
Not just this country, I think the world needs more poets, less engineers, even less managers, even less politicians. So yeah, I think
Very, very
trying
well
to
said.
be a writer is always a great, probably the greatest quest in terms of the human mind. If you want to be a writer or a poet, I think nothing can better that, because then you're basically trying to be everything and then put that experience into being a writer. So yeah, nothing better than that.
And I think if the audience would so like it, I think a mixture of English and Hindi.
Yeah.
So we jump straight into, where you went and studied your engineering, Banaras Hindu University. And Ira tells me you have such a deep relationship with the food of Banaras.
Yeah, I have a deep relationship with food from every place I go to generally. And so one of the reasons I wanted to say yes every year anybody invites me to Bengaluru is because of the dosa here. I just love the dosa and coffee, and I have a whatever. Sorry if I offend someone here, but for me the ideal dosa platter is dosa from Bangalore, chutney from Andhra, and sambar from Tamil Nadu. So that's the best combination ever.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I think so. That kind of how North Indians a lot of times they kind of bunch these states into one, saying South India. But if you eat food from all these places, you can never group them together. The foods are the coffee is so different from all three places, and I love again the coffee I prefer from the Karnataka style coffee, which is some 10-15% chicory and all. So that's lovely. But yeah, I have a deep relationship with food, and Banaras is one of the best, I think, food places in India.
So, talking of, Banaras and the food, did your sort of deep love for poetry also come from that kind of a background?
Yeah, because poetry is rasa, and all the the 9 rasas of Shringar we talk about. I think you can find all of them in food also. And if you are interested in cooking generally, or in food, or the recipes of food, I think it's almost the same process. It's a very solo, meditative process where you create something, and at every stage you have a chance to do something different from the previous time. So you cannot write the same poem twice, you cannot cook the same pulao or biryani twice. It's always something different. Maybe it's, even if you follow a very strict recipe and you have those microgram weighing machines and all, and you have a lab assistant with you, even then the temperature and humidity will change. Similarly, if you are writing a poem again, trying to rewrite the same thing, the temperature and humidity of your life and experience will be different. So you create something new. So for me, cooking is very, very close to writing. And once you write, you detach, you give it out to the world, and then it's for others to eat, consume, process, whatever, and you're done. Same for cooking. You put it out into the world, and it kind of, similarly like mandala making, what Buddhists say about mandala meditation. You create something over a week, sometimes over a month, and then you just erase it. So yeah, it's all same, I think, for me.
So on that note, could we maybe ask you to read from one of your...
Yeah, sure. So I have a bunch of poems lined up. I don't know which one should I start with, because all of them are in Hindi, first of all. So there's a long poem. Should I start with that?
Let's start with that.
And then there's some really short.
And then we'll move on to those.
Okay, so the long poem is a children's poem I wrote, and I wrote it for a particular purpose. I was trying to do 2 things. One is to practice the metrics of writing a poem, the meter system. So I wanted to write a rhyme, and a very tight rhyme with very strict meter. So that was the first intention, and make it like a longish poem. So it's a small book, but in the book it is a 40-page poem. But every page has 8 lines or something. So it's not like every page is like the font 8 and like stuff into. I hate those kind of books which try to tell you we are not huge, but they are, because the font size is really small. So so I'm not trying to trick people into that. So it's not a really long poem, but it will probably be 8 to 10 minutes. So,
of course.
And the second thing I wanted to do is create which I'll talk about later, the meaning of this poem, but it's a narrative poem. That was the second aim, that there has to be a story inside the poem. It is not just metaphors and all, it is a full-fledged story inside the poem. So here I go. So I remember most of it, but I still have to refer to my document just so the poem is called Hari Patang Pe Hara Patanga. The book is also out. I don't think we have it here in the book section. It is there? Hari Patang Pe Hara Patanga? Oh wow, okay, it is there. No, I saw the Hathiyon Ki Toli, the other book, which is a poem book. So this one is illustrated by Ellen Shaw, and it's a beautiful illustration. In fact, I was blown away, and I thought, okay, after the illustration, the illustrations should have come to me first, and then I had written the poem, it would have been even better. But Hari Patang Pe Hara Patanga. एक है घोड़ा 2 सवार हैं, 3 लोक के 4 द्वार हैं, रात भी 5 पहर सोती है, कथा शुरू ऐसे होती है। 6 गो मुसाफिर पै दस्तों पे, जंगल के खाली रस्तों पे, बैठे हैं जी घूम घाम के, 7 समंदर 8 नाम के, घर से निकले थे ये सारे बरसों पहले बिना इशारे, खोज ने बरखा वाला बादल, अंबर से लटका पानी फल। बादल तो ना कहीं भी पाया, पर एक ज्ञानी ने समझाया, सामग्री सब लेके जाओ, अपना बादल आप बनाओ। भटक भटक के किस्से किस्से, जमा किए बादल के हिस्से, लाद के सब कुछ जैसे तैसे, लाए हैं संग हिस्से ऐसे। नौ मटकी भूरी खाकी। Now we are talking about the things they have gathered to make the cloud or make the rain. नौ मटकी भूरी खाकी, जिसमें रेत थी हर दरिया की। नौ मटकी भूरी खाकी, जिनमें रेत थी हर दरिया की। 10 मोती देश देश के, कपड़े लत्ते भेस भेस के। अंकारा से घास हैं लाए, मेघालय से बांस हैं लाए। नील नदी के 11 कंकड़, कहीं से लोहा कहीं से लंगड़। कहीं से कोई नई सी भाषा, कहीं से केवल निरी निराशा। चीन से चीनी, तुर्क से अत्तर, रूस से काले नमक के पत्थर। पेरू के हैं दर्जन केले, फ्रांस से 13-14 ढेले। ढेला एक एक रंग बिरंगा, हरी पतंग पे हरा पतंगा। गांव अभी भी दूर है उनका, 15 कोस पे 16 तिनका। नॉट इट्स अ मेजरमेंट, कोस पुराना मेजरमेंट होता था, कितनी जो आज की तारीख में जो मील या किलोमीटर या अंग्रेज जो भी यार्ड पे अटके हुए हैं, तो ऐसे ही कोस। गांव अभी भी दूर है उनका, 15 कोस पे 16 तिनका। सब कुछ लेकर घर जाएंगे, जोड़ के शायद बनेगी बरखा। 17-18 घंटे बाकी, रात के बाद है किरण सुबह की। चलना फिर से शुरू किया है, बादल का सब बोझ लिया है। गांव में सूखा अब तक जारी, आज से सबकी आंखें भारी। गांव में सूखा अब तक जारी, आज से सबकी आंखें भारी। देख मुसाफिर लहर सी दौड़ी, सभी उछालें सिक्के कौड़ी। देख मुसाफिर लहर सी दौड़ी, सभी उछालें सिक्के कौड़ी। कंधे से सामान उतारा, आंखों से आकाश निहारा। दूर दूर तक धूप बहाली, नदियां पोखर सारे खाली। बादल की सामग्री जोड़ी, एक चीज ना पीछे छोड़ी। सॉरी यार। अत्तर कंकड़ घास निराशा, ढेले पत्थर केले भाषा। रेत बांस और नीला मन का, बिल्ली की मूंछों का तिनका। दुआ नमस्ते प्रेम की बोली, बड़ी सी हांडी में सब घोली। लेट गए फिर अखियां नीचे, गांव के बूढ़े पीपल नीचे। कितने हफ्ते पड़े रहे बस, जिद पे अपनी अड़े रहे बस। बादल को तो बनना होगा, हवा को गीला सनना होगा। सबको गहरी नींद लगी थी, एक गिलहरी मगर जगी थी। सबको गहरी नींद लगी थी, एक गिलहरी मगर जगी थी। दौड़ी सरपट कूद फांद के, पीठ पे पहली बूंद बांध के। टप 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 बरसा पानी, सबको मिला वो घर सा पानी। बादल अंबर के मन आए, भर भर के सब बर्तन आए। सफर था लंबा, बात कठिन थी, मेघ विधि भी बड़ी जटिल थी। पर जब बरसे खुल गए सारे, जटिल कठिन सब धुल गए सारे। एक है चंदा 2 तारे हैं, 3 लोक के चौद्वारे हैं। बादल की भी विधि होती है, कथा की यूं इति होती है। It's a multiple level. I was trying to do the counting also. So it's a counting till 20, and also after that I was like, I'm like losing the meaning. I following the counting and all, and became too predictable after a point. But yeah, it's a story within a poem, and poem within a story, and counting within the poem and all that.
Absolutely, and it shows restraint, because the meter and everything is so sort of structured, and a lot of restraint is required, right? And which brings me to the process of writing. When you write something which is so restrained, and then take the title of our session, which is what got you your first national award as a lyricist. And then when you take it and write poetry to something like a moha moha ke dhage. Could you talk to us about that and read some of something like that?
Yeah. I hope one of two things. Either if I had not gotten the national award, that would have been good, or I get another one, so that I get out of that momo ke dhage expectation, because it's not the first time a session has been called momo ke dhage where I am present, and it's like
credit to organizers everywhere.
Gabbar Singh going to a session, no, not Gabbar Singh, Amjad Khan going to a session and the session is called a Reo Samba, that kind of a thing. So, but yeah, Moh Ke Dhage, or generally about writing poetry, for me it is a discipline, it is a process like anything else. Simplicity is my first aim. I don't want to, because anyway, that is the craft, putting complex emotions, thoughts into simple language. Only then it will translate. Or putting simple thoughts into complex language, like probably this, this particular poem. So that's the challenge. This one is more difficult, where you have to put difficult thoughts into simple language, like Moh Ke Dhage, I would say, or for example, where we had great help from Dushyant Kumar Sahab, but Tu Kisi Rail Si Guzarti Hai. Now, the simplicity of the first two lines, which is from a Dushyant Kumar ghazal, Tu Kisi Rail Si Guzarti Hai, Main Kisi Pul Sa Thartharata Hoon. Now, that simplicity we wanted to retain. And it's, as I said, it's always a process which is not restricted to that particular day of writing the poetry or writing the song. It's a process which you have to live daily in your life, trying to constantly express in the simplest words, whatever you express, wherever you express, even if it's an email, even if it's a WhatsApp message, even if it's a tweet. And I take everything which is writing as a challenge. So sometimes, so I got Twitter Premium recently because they took away everyone's blue ticks and all. So I subscribed to that, and then I saw that it's not challenging enough, because now they have allowed, like, you can write whatever, you can write full film script in that, and they won't stop you. So I got back to the non-paid version where they have this 280 character limit, because that is the joy of expressing a thought in that limit. It's a game. Otherwise, what is Twitter apart from anxiety? It's a game. So I need to get something out of it, and so I put myself in that thing. So challenging yourself on every interaction wherever you do. Then, of course, reading the greats, reading the legends, seeing how they do it, and right from Ghalib, which Ranjit sir was talking about, in the previous session, or Mir, or to Amrita Pritam, to Gulzar, to Javed Sahab, Javed Akhtar, to all the legends, who have shown us the way that this is also possible, and this is also Manto in such limited words. So brevity, I really ranked very high in writing, and that is also, I think that also because of my disciplinary, whatever you call that, being a stand-up comedian and writer and poet and lyrics writer. So it kind of helps me to take, whatever my learnings from one craft and put it into something else. Like, so stand-up comedy taught me that, the crisper you are, the harder it hits whatever you're talking about. So that helped me in, figuring out some of the lyrics writing work I did, or poetry for children, or, I can give you one quick example of a small poem I wrote recently. So, yeah. So it's called Bhasha, the poem. जो बहुत बोलता है उसे कम बोलना है, जो कम बोलता है उसे चुप हो जाना है, जो पहले से ही चुप है उसे भूल जानी है भाषा, और जिसे नहीं खबर भाषा की भी उसे अपने मस्तिष्क में भेजकर एक सर्च पार्टी खोज निकालने हैं वो न्यूरॉन जो आपस में जुड़कर, टकराकर, बतियाकर, रचकर कोई गहरी एवोल्यूशनरी साजिश किसी दिन अचानक ही भाषा बन सकते हैं. So it's something which, about censorship and all, which is really troubling me, and I was like, okay, I should do something, but then
Pass the censors.
yeah, something which, they don't understand that it's about them. Now they do if they end up watching this video, but yeah, I hope they don't go and search for poetry festival mein kya ho raha hai.
I think we are slightly under that radar.
Yeah, though there are no radars anymore. Everything is a camera and it's in our phone, but it's okay. I mean, yeah, it's fine.
You also do a lot of translation work, right?
Yeah. So I love translating. For me, it's again, so everything is an exercise. Even writing actual professional work which goes out, it's okay. For some people, it is a professional work which is for them to read, but for me, it is an exercise. And same, so I treat translation at par with my, professional writing work or stand-up comedy. I love translation because it does two things. One, it challenges me to create something where there is a base and still there is a chance where you can add something to it context-wise, from translating from say English to Hindi, like I've done a few of Shel Silverstein's poetry in Hindi from English. I have done some translation from Punjabi to Hindi, Surjit Pathak Sahab ka. Then I'm now learning Bangla, so I've done one Rabindranath Thakur's one poem from Bangla to Hindi. So I'm trying these things because, of course, it is challenging. Two, it's something which just, jumps at you and you realize, okay, this is so beautiful, it can be shared further with the world. So many people who can't read that language, and now I'm privileged enough to at least read and also be a bit of a poet, so I can try that. So,
and add your element of creativity on top.
Yeah, whatever, I can contextualize sometimes. Like for example, Shel Silverstein's poetry is a very, it's written in whatever the American context,
right.
A lot of it, to translate that into Indian context, sometimes I do. So I call it not translation sometimes, when it's not an exact translation, it's more of a, what we call in Hindi, bhava anuvad. So I don't know what's the English word for that, maybe the...
I think they'll be called translations. That's English for you, right?
Yeah, but then I don't know. It's not thematic translation or I don't know. Maybe Google Translate will give us a very bad translation of this. We should not ask them. But yeah, in Hindi we call it bhava anuvad. So bhav ka anuvad kiya hai. शब्द वही रखे हैं, but कई बार because the metric, whatever the meter system in English is very different from Hindi, so I want to retain that also. Like Shel Silverstein doesn't really care about the beher in a ghazal format. तो वो ठीक है, rhyme होता है उसमें, कई बार rhyme pattern होता है, तो I want to add the rhyme as well as the beher also fix it, so that becomes an added challenge. So yeah.
Would you have something like that you can read?
Yeah. In fact, Shel Silverstein is a good example I can share. Yes. So should I read the English one also first?
Yes, that would be give the nice context to it.
Okay. So it's called The Crocodile's Toothache. The crocodile went to the dentist and sat down in the chair. And the dentist said, "Now tell me, sir, why does it hurt and where?" And the crocodile said, "I'll tell you the truth. I have a terrible ache in my tooth." And he opened his jaws so wide, that the dentist, He climbed right inside. And the dentist laughed. Oh, isn't this fun? As he pulled the teeth out one by one. And the crocodile cried, you are hurting me so. Please put down your pliers and let me go. But the dentist laughed with a ho ho ho. And he said, I still have 12 to go. Oops, that's the wrong one, I confess. But what's one crocodile tooth, more or less? Then suddenly the jaws went snap. And the dentist was gone, right off the map. And where he went, one could only guess, to north or south or east or west. He left no forwarding address, but what's one dentist, more or less? So this, I enjoyed it so much, and I write for a couple of children's publications, Cycle being one, and Pluto being another, and Chakmak being a third. So these three Hindi publications, so Cycle and Pluto are published by Ektara, Chakmak is published by Eklavya. They are monthly, bi-monthly magazines for children. All of them published from Bhopal, and I work with them occasionally. I write poetry, stories, interviews. In fact, there is a fun series I do for them, which is interviewing a stranger. So I meet anyone on the road, sometimes a taxi driver, sometimes a fellow passenger on the train, a fellow passenger on the flight, someone I randomly bump into a postman or a postwoman on the street. I sit down with them for an hour and just interview about their life, and then we publish it. So which inspired a lot of kids to interview people around them and then publish that. So anyway, so मगरमच्छ के दांत. मगरमच्छ एक दिन गया दांत के डॉक्टर की दुकान, जाके बैठा ही था कुर्सी में और डॉक्टर बोला, कहिए श्रीमान, कहाँ कहाँ दुखता है और क्यों? मगरमच्छ बोला, मैं सच कहूँ, मेरे दांत में इतना दर्द है कि हाय रे हाय। डॉक्टर बोला, अच्छा, जरा मुंह खोल के तो दिखाएं। और फिर मगरमच्छ ने जब जबड़ा खोला, बड़ा चौड़ा और भूरा। डॉक्टर उसमें जाके बैठ गया, पूरा का पूरा। फिर हंस के बोला, आहा, ये तो बड़ा मजेदार है एकांत। और फिर लगा उखाड़ने एक एक करके सारे दांत। मगर मगरमच्छ लगा रोने गाने, ऐसा करो मुझे अब दो जाने। हाय जरा धीरे, हाय जरा हौले, अपनी ये चिमटी हटा ले डॉक्टर और हाथ धो ले। पर डॉक्टर साहब को अब तो जरूरत ही नहीं थी, हाँ की या ना की। हंस के बोले, हा हा हा, अभी तो पूरे 12 है बाकी। ओहो, ये तो गलती से फिर गलत निकाल दिया, पर अगला सही निकालूंगा, ये है इरादा। वैसे इतने दांत होते हैं मगरमच्छ के, क्या फर्क? वैसे इतने दांत होते हैं मगरमच्छ के, क्या फर्क पड़ेगा, एक कम या ज्यादा? तभी अचानक सटाक की आवाज, समझ भी नहीं आया कब, और मगर के जबड़ों में चिमटी समेत पूरा डॉक्टर हो गया गायब। कहाँ गया फिर, किस दिशा, ना कोई पता, ना मिलने का वादा। वैसे इतने डॉक्टर होते हैं दुनिया में, क्या फर्क पड़ेगा, एक कम या ज्यादा।
Absolutely.
Okay, this is again Shel Silverstein, or should I do Surjit Patar? Surjit Patar, हाँ, वो कुछ अलग हो जाएगा। ठीक। अच्छा, इसमें प्रॉब्लम ये है कि मेरे पास ओरिजिनल पंजाबी यहाँ नहीं है, वो मेरे किताब में है। मैं जो हिंदी अनुवाद है वही सुना देता हूँ, पंजाबी मेरे पास नहीं है इस समय। तो एक कविता है, कविता के हत्यारे, सुरजीत पातर जी की। मैं पहला मिसरा लिखता हूँ और डर जाता हूँ बादशाह के सिपाहियों से, मिसरे को मिटा देता हूँ। मिसरा इज द फर्स्ट लाइन ऑफ अ शेर और एनी लाइन ऑफ द शेर। सो पहला मिसरा इज द फर्स्ट लाइन। मैं पहला मिसरा लिखता हूँ और डर जाता हूँ बादशाह के सिपाहियों से, मिसरे को मिटा देता हूँ। मैं दूसरा मिसरा लिखता हूँ और डर जाता हूँ गुरिल्ले बागियों से, उसको भी काट देता हूँ। अपनी जान की खातिर हजारों अपने मिसरों का मैंने किया है कत्ल। उन मिसरों की रूहें अक्सर मेरे चुफेरे फिरती हैं बेतहाशा और कहती हैं मुझे, कवि साहब, कवि हो या कविता के कातिल हो तुम। सुने मुंसिफ बड़े इंसाफ के कातिल, बहुत से मजहब के रखवाले भी सुनने में आए हैं कत्ल करते अपने मजहब की मुकद्दस रूह को। सिर्फ यही बाकी था तो सुन लिया है कि हमारे वक्त में खौफ के मारे कवि ही हो गए हैं कविता के हत्यारे। This is one of his, I mean, my favorite poems of him. एक है जो छोटा सा हिस्सा है, दो शेर हैं असल में। मैं तेरे दर्द नू, द ओरिजिनल पोएम इज, मैं तेरे दर्द नू, मैं तेरे दर्द को तेरी किताब तक देखूं और मैं तेरे दर्द को तेरी किताब तक देखूं और उस किताब को इनकलाब तक देखूं। मिट्टी बनाया है मुझे तो ये नेमत भी थे, मिट्टी बनाया है मुझे तो ये नेमत भी थे, मिट्टी बनाया है मुझे तो ये नेमत भी दे, मैं उगते बीज को खिलते गुलाब तक देखूं। जी।
I didn't want to get into much more of the long form writing that you do, which is with the scripts, and obviously you do a lot of long form for your stand up and things like that, because this is a poetry festival. But could you talk us a little bit about how these two kind of feed off of each other? And because, you know, when you write really small couplets like this, or the beautiful bhavanuvat that you had talked about, I think to me, it really, like, I as a non-artist cannot understand how someone who can write verse like this can also get into long form writing like a script, and vice versa, right? And coming purely from like a layman's perspective, how do these two kind of work together, feed off of each other?
I think we all are trained to tell stories, like evolutionary wise, right? Evolution wise or evolutionarily. Like, you know, some animals are, whatever, every animal has a trait which they know, like cat knows how to hide whatever their litter, chimpanzee knows how to groom the baby or how to feed them. Everyone knows everything. Like, so I think humans have a couple of things which we are born with. One is the ability to make tools, which also is a recent discovery that we had that ability, like since Neanderthal times. It was not like a sudden random evolution that happened. We always had that because chimpanzees also had that. The second thing is we are tuned to tell stories and tuned to understand them. So for me, everything is a story. Being an artist, it kind of, that ability or that part of my mind came into sharp focus. And once that comes into focus, then after that it's only a craft thing. You know how things work, so you know the art of it in a way, not just inherently, but yeah, you have to work on it. You kind of discipline your life in a certain way. You know how to, whatever, squeeze the juice out of a book or any conversation to, you know, to fit it into some story. We can tell into any form. Then after that, it is the craft, which is somehow in India, I've seen, especially in the budding writers, there is a slight disdain for craft. And people think, okay, we have this great idea, and you know, you just listen to this great idea and it can become something, you know, fantastic and all. But we all have great ideas. That's the thing. We need the craft to put it there. And that craft, if you are not working on it and you just think, okay, it's a great idea and just idea is enough. No, ideas are never enough. Even, you know, the most, amazingly, thankfully, the most evil ideas which some people think, but they have not worked on the craft, and that's why they are not succeeding, which is a good thing for us. But you need to know how to apply them. So for after that, it's only learning how to frame this idea into a story or a poem or a stand-up bit, or sometimes all three, sometimes none. So after that, it takes that kind of learning. But yeah, my mind is tuned to that, and it took a while, but not too long, because again, the raw material was there right from the age of 5 or 6. The moment I started reading, or kids start reading or putting letters together to make words. I was kind of obsessed with reading, and thankfully my father also is a big reader, and we had lots of books at home, and he would bring lots of books for us. Me and my younger brother both grew up with lots of magazines, lots of those novellas, simplified for children, like Robinson Crusoe and Three Musketeers and the Black Horse and Escape from Alcaraz and all. So Alcaraz? No, Alcatraz. हाँ, Alcaraz से तो escape अभी कल देखते हैं वो जोकोविच को मिलेगा कि नहीं. We'll see. But yeah, so those kind of things. So everything I could kind of read those. In the 90s, kids would know Children Knowledge Bank, which was just a list of factoids. A lot of them were false, which we later found out. Yeah, they just said aliens made pyramids. Yeah. So that was supposed to be the knowledge for children. But yeah, I read a lot, and then once you read a lot, which is again the only way you can write is you have to read a lot, because if you read a lot, it kind of builds up, and then you want to use that. This again, the second human tendency. One is telling stories. Second is show off. We want to show off what we have, acquired, and we want to talk to people, and we'll try to force fit some knowledge, some factoid. Just like I force fitted this thing in Children Knowledge Bank, fake news tha. So you want to fit stuff, and once you start fitting stuff you've learned, you slowly become a storyteller, and then a writer, and then you know what to fit where, and what will cause least embarrassment and most praise, kind of a thing. That balance comes into play slowly. But yeah.
Just got a sign that we have only about 4 minutes left. So if you have one short poem that you can read, we can ask the audience for some questions.
Yeah. So we can maybe have some questions, because poem will just take up all the time.
Okay. Questions from the audience? Anyone?
Hello Varun sir, hello Subodh. Thank you for coming to Bangalore, and we have a common similarity. I also from BHU only. So I just wanted to ask, you mentioned about the craft and the balance of emotions. So like I have heard people saying that there has to be a balance, but is it possible to write a great poem with full emotion, or is it possible to write a great poem with full craft? Like, have you tried that?
Yeah, the thing is, you don't write things with a plan. Sometimes a similar question comes to me: how do you put your politics into your story, right? How exactly you are asking, how do you put your emotion into a story or your craft into a story? You have to be that. You can't put it. You have to be that political person who is aware of certain things, and then that politics will automatically come into it. You sometimes won't even realize that you are putting your politics or your awareness or whatever you know about the world into these characters. It may be the third layer of the character, or third layer of the poetry, third layer of the meaning. Like this poem, for example, the Badal Wali. I wrote it thinking of it as a metaphor for not just rain, which is very obvious, as a metaphor for how we feel things, how we feel emotions. For every emotion, we have to take so many things from around the world. But someone said it is a poem about our democracy and the idea of constitution and secularism, that it is a diverse place where everything, when it comes together and you wait and the patience, then only it kind of reigns. So everything can be interpreted in multiple ways. So the thing is, what you can do is be sensitive enough, be aware enough of your self, and it will come. You can't say, okay, इस poem में मैं 25% craft डाल देता हूँ, 30% emotion डाल देता हूँ, 20% politics डाल देता हूँ. वो तो नहीं हो सकता ना. It's not, even if it is like cooking, but it is not cooking, and it's not cooking meth at all, which is particularly very, very, oriented, whatever, recipe oriented and milligrams oriented. But yeah, thank you.
Hi, I just had the opportunity of reading the book Biksu, and being from Jharkhand, I really loved the book. So could you just talk a little bit about your experience of working with that book?
Yeah, thank you for asking about Biksu. Biksu is like it's something which me and Rajkumari, the creator of that book, I'm just a writer. So I've written the screenplay of that. Rajkumari has illustrated and written the dialogues also of the book. It's something which took us 2-3 years, 2 years actually to make the first draft, and then 2-3 years to get a publisher to print it the way we wanted. But it's something very close to Rajkumari's heart, especially because it's the story of her cousin who actually had that experience in a small school in Gumla, Saint Ignatius, and it's a coming of age, but first time in India a coming of age drawn in Madhubani and in Chota Nagpuri dialect. So we are taking many risks there, and somehow it has it has really reached people, and I'm so glad someone here also is asking about that. So thank you.
I think we have time for one last question.
Hi Varun, good evening. It's always a pleasure listening to you. Preetham here. I just want to take this moment, if you can give us the background story of how did you come up with Shock, and if you could please recite that.
Acha, Shock is there is no backstory, as in बहुत rare होता है ऐसा कि फिल्मों में हमको इतना फ्रीडम मिलता है कि आपको जो लिखना है लिखो और हम कंपोज कर लेंगे, या जो एक कॉम्पोजिशन दिया है उसमें आप जो भी लिखोगे वी वोंट चेंज अ वर्ड. दैट्स व्हाट अन्विता दत्त did. She is a very close friend and she is a lyrics writer herself. So she said कि तुमको जो लिखना है वो लिखो. I knew the situation and I knew the script of the film and I had the tunes, but after that it was kind of a free space for me. And so my process of writing any song is basically I keep listening to the tune, and most of the times 90% of the cases we are given a tune and then we have to write it. It's not like we give the poetry to composer and then they compose it. Some of them do that. Sneha Khanwalkar did that in Gangs of Wasipur. But mostly, in this case, I got a tune. And my process is I listen to that tune for a week, non-stop, just playing non-stop till it becomes like sets in my head where I don't have to play it. It still plays in my head when I'm sleeping and all. So I just had the tune and I thought, okay, I generally write well in flights. So every flight I take, I keep some work which is like a song, lyrics work, which I finish on that flight because it's very calm and it's very, somehow it's very romantic. And also I'm very scared of flying, so it keeps my mind focused. I'm very scared, so I'm always like, okay, if this is the last thing I do, then it has to be a song, it's good. And I keep thinking, okay, if it turns out to be a great song and the flight crashes, oh God, how will this survive, and all that. So I have all those plans. So I always sit on the emergency window, so I know that the moment it is about to crash, I'll open the door and throw the phone out at least with, इमरजेंसी कॉन्टैक्ट को ऑलरेडी वो भेज दूंगा मैं व्हाट्सएप पे. जैसे फोन नीचे पहुंचेगा धरती के पास वो चला जाएगा गाना. But before it explodes, if the phone, and there's a 10%, 5% chance that the phone falls and the flight also falls on it and the phone is never recovered. Lots of strange scenarios, but back to Shock. So I wrote it in 20 minutes on the runway while the flight was about to take off. I thought, okay, I'll finish it on the flight, but the song was the music was so stuck in my mind, and the visuals, what Anvita had described, it's a night and there's a boat and there are kind of conflicting emotions between mother and daughter and this another boy played by Babil in the film and daughter Tripti in the film Kala. So I had these images in my head. Film was not yet shot, so it was just the script. So I started writing and somehow the first line came to me, बिखरने का मुझको शौक है बड़ा, and then after that it just flowed. So I don't know how it happened, but thank you for asking, and I'll quickly maybe recite these 4 lines.
Absolutely.
बिखरने का मुझको शौक है बड़ा, समेटेगा मुझको तू बता जरा, डूबती है तुझ में आज मेरी हस्ती, So we had two options, कश्ती and हस्ती, जो दोनों मैंने लिखे थे, और गाने में शायद कश्ती है एक्चुअल गाने में, बट शुरू में हस्ती लिखा था। बिखरती डूबती है तुझ में आज मेरी कश्ती, खुद ही भूल गया। खुशबुओं में गुफ्तगू में उलझी बात की तरह खो रहे हैं दोनों एक दूसरे में,
जैसे
सर्दियों की रात में जैसे तुम ओके, ये कैमरा मुझे चुराना पड़ेगा। I don't want to be seen like this. And yeah, now I think they have a valid blackmail. Anyway, I think you can Google it. Thank you, but it was lovely talking to you. Thank you to Atakalata. Thank you to the Thank you so much. India has a poetry festival because yes, we need less tech fests, more poetry.
More poetry fests. Thank you all so much. Varun's books are available in the bookstore, which is across the street, and I'm sure he's happy to sign some.
Yeah. So if you said we have that, right? Hari Patang pe Hara Patanga, also Haathiyon ki Toli, also Karejwa. So I'm here if you want them signed. We can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
And one more request, I would prefer signing or shaking hands and not selfies. It's very tiring and it's very, I don't know, it's very embarrassing also. So, and seriously very tiring and overwhelming. So let's not do selfies, we can shake hands.
Thank you so much, sir. I think the 8th edition is the charm for the Bengaluru Poetry Festival.